And welcome back. Across the United States, there's been an unprecedented rise in entrepreneurship, with over 19 million new business applications filed in the past 4 years. This growth has been especially significant among people of color, with black business ownership doubling and Latino owned businesses growing at historic rates. The Small Business Administration has become a cornerstone in supporting underserved communities, ensuring that business ownership is attainable for everyone regardless of background. And joining me now to tell us more is the Regional Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration, Marlene Cintron. And Marlene, glad to have you.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Glad to have you. Yes, well, we're glad to have this conversation because when we talk about small business, of course, it is the lifeblood of America. We know that without small business, we'd be in a lot of in a lot of trouble. So, talk to us really about this. I said in the open that it's seen a rise over the course of the last 4 years. A lot of people attributed this to COVID and being indoors and reinventing yourself.
I agree. Fact of the matter is that basically we had about 2 years to really think about where we were and where we wanted to go. We had an opportunity to actually stand down emotionally and say, okay, what has my life been like, and what do I want it to look like when we reopen? And a lot of people realized that they were just running to run. They had a job to work, but were not necessarily really feeling and working their passion. And so it gave them an opportunity to, not only to acknowledge that they weren't happy where they were, but more importantly, to figure out what passions they had. What were the kind of things that, they're really passionate about and they could make money out of. And as a result, although we had already seen an increase, especially with women coming into the marketplace and creating their own small businesses, fact of the matter is that much younger individuals started joining us. And so it was called, that whole period of time is called the Great Resign. We have never seen anything like it. It's unprecedented. But in the end, America wins because we need so much more here, manufactured here, thought out here, worked out here by people that we know and trust and love, and create more jobs here in the nation. Because fact of the matter is that if your neighbors are working, then things are better in your community. If your mom and dad are working, then you're going to do better in school because you're not worried about them. You've got more money, more food in your belly, and as a result, you do better in school. And so it's a win-win-win-win-win. And you also become a great example for other people in the community to realize that you started a small business, which then probably became a big business. And as a result, kids want to grow up and be just like you.
Yeah. And when we look at small business, the funding component, we've talked about how a lot more people are applying for small business, and at the same time, also funding. And we talk about the funding status. Give us a little bit of a rundown for you as to what it's been like, what you've seen, particularly in communities of color.
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit and just say that nationally, there are over 5 million small businesses in the nation, and they employ about 3 million other people in those businesses. So certainly, it is a great way to earn earn the money, and just as importantly, to be able to hire people within your community and outside of your community. Within the African American community, 161,031 small businesses are owned by African Americans, and they account for $183.3 billion in annual sales. And for the women, I just want you to know that out of this number, in terms of African Americans, 39% of those African American businesses are owned by women. So certainly, they are an integral part of what's happening nationally. But certainly, access to capital has always been a big challenge for communities of color. So as a result, the Biden Harris administration really and truly encouraged us to really and truly focus these last 4 years in the historically underserved communities. So that is African American, Asian, Hispanic businesses, certainly LGBTQ as well. All those all those groups that have been ignored and should not be. And so that's what we have done. And while we have grown exponentially in the double digits, there's still a lot of growth that we can do. And so that people understand what SBA does, we don't lend directly. What we do is we let the banks know that if there are people that they are thinking about financing, especially in the historically underserved communities, but they are not comfortable with lending to them or lending as much to them, what we will do, SBA, is that we guarantee whatever it is that they're lending to these small businesses, we will guarantee anywhere between 75 and 80% of the amount that they lend out to the small company. So if anything happens, we will cover up to 80% of the loan. And that's pretty extraordinary because what we do when we're in the game is that then as a result, the small business only has to put in 10% of their own capital in order to borrow versus the traditional 20%.
Yeah.
So the risk to the banks and the financial institutions is really, really small.
And Latino-owned businesses, they've seen a surge as well in terms of access to funding, and that number continues to rise.
Well, I'll tell you, the interesting thing about the Latino community is that um, they are the lion that has yet to roar. We found out through a very large national report last week, actually last year, that if you were to take all of the Latino owned businesses nationally and made them a country, they would come in fifth place in terms of the amount of funds that are generated globally. So they're ahead of France, they're ahead of India, and so they're doing very, very well. But certainly, what hampers the Latino community and the African American community generally is the fact that we do not have enough venture capitalists and investors who look like us, sound like us, and want to help us. And so if we had many more minority venture capitalists and investors who really understand our culture, understand our marketplace, who understand our targeted outreach, we would be able to do even better because what happens with venture capitalist investors is that they normally fund people that have been referred to them or that they know personally. So, for those individuals who have really made it really, really big, and you know who you are, think about setting up a venture capital fund where you can bring other people up by their bootstraps because we know how to work. We just need an opportunity, even
Yeah.
more than what the federal government is more than available to do.
We want to talk about that opportunity and access to opportunity. Talk to me a little bit about the 7A and 504 loan programs because this is an opportunity that's available for businesses to tap in and, you know, get access to capital.
Well, we'll start with the big stuff. In 7A, we can lend up to $5 million, and that is for working capital. So if you have a business and you need working capital, which means to pay off your employees, or if you're expanding your business and you need to hire more employees, we're able to do that as well for you with this 7A program. If you went into a big contract and they're not going to pay you for 3 to 6 months, but it was worth getting into that contract because it'll take you to the next level. That from 1 million to $5 million is the way for you to go, and that you apply directly to the financial institutions around the corner from you, or you can go online at sba.gov. We have something called Lender Match, where we have people who have been vetted already by us across the nation. So from Massachusetts all the way up to the west coast of California, you have access to every single borrower or lender who's willing to consider your loans. And what's good about that is that it gives you an opportunity to discuss your business with, someone that you traditionally would not have access to, but certainly may be interested. And if they make you an offer, then you can go to your own bank down the street and say, listen, the California financial institution is offering me this and this and this. What do you have to say? And so you can get some competition going and you can end up winning because then your local financial institution can lower their interest rate or can increase the amount that you want to borrow, or you can go to the guy in California for this for less amount.
Yeah. When we look at
Now, the
our
504 for me
Mhm.
as a New Yorker, it's even a bigger thing because we know that real estate in New York, especially, is off the chain. It's very, very expensive. And the 504 is a specialized loan program up to 30 years, up to again $5.5 million. dollars. It can be a bigger loan, but we can go up to 5.5. And it's for the acquisition of commercial property, build out, and machinery. So I always encourage my community to own a piece of the rock because when you own your property, you are then in control of your budget. The taxes, you know how much they're going to be. Your water bill, your Con Edison, everything is on you, but you are in control. Your landlord can no longer jack up your rent, and you are no longer paying their mortgage on the building that you have improved on, that you are occupying. And so, by all means, we have always found, I would say 80% of the time, when we calculate what they're currently paying between the rent, and the triple net tax fees, which is the electricity, the water, the taxes, your portion that you're paying to the landlord, you we quickly determined that based upon a 30-year loan that we can give you, and it's a fixed loan, that you'll end up paying less by owning that building than by paying the landlord.
Yeah, yeah. And not many people know that. I think you're encumbered by the burden and the weight of just trying to get your business off the ground. And there's so many things to really consider when you get your business that this is one of the things that doesn't really always come to mind. But I'm glad we're having this conversation because perhaps there's a business owner out there that's watching right now and saying, listen, this is something that I really need to think about. I really need to.
That's why I came on. I'm relying on you.
Yeah,
Uh,
well,
but but certainly I've gone on. I've met with the supermarket associations. A lot of those guys, they own supermarkets. They've improved on the supermarkets. They've done added new lighting. All of that, if they go away, the landlord ends up benefiting from. So I encourage them to buy that property. Buy the block if need be, because more than often, it's not only just a supermarket, but it's a parking lot next door. That his customers are using. So certainly it's a win-win-win when they do that.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, no, no. You listen. Love having you.
I get
You
excited.
listen. Let us know. We talk about underserved communities. Really, honestly, we can see the margins, and you can see those who are marginalized. Um, Part of your work, I know, is really bringing that access to underserved communities to let them know about it. I can tell you, I've been in meetings and I've covered them as press conferences. I've heard so many people in the community say the real problem that we have is a lack of information and access to resources, access to capital. These are the primary arguments that you're going to hear from people in marginalized communities, and I want to hear from you. Really, how do we do that about increasing the access to capital, and what's been done to increase the access to capital to underserved communities?
Well, I will tell you that in the last 3 years, our administrator has been key in ensuring that we create additional and facilitate new programs and old programs to lower the effort needed by lenders to lend to the community and by the borrowers to borrow from the federal government. This is a city of immigrants and migrants, and a lot of people come in here with distrust of the federal government. Oh, it's the federal government. I'm scared. And fact of the matter is that if you're going to start a business, you should come to us first, whether you're documented or not. We cannot lend to you if you're undocumented, but we can provide you with a lot of great advice and we can show you the way. Because what happens is that the moment you open up a small business, you're going to get people in the street that are going to come in and lend you money, but at 16%, at 25%. And when you do that, you will never own your business. When you're giving somebody else 25% of your weekly profit and they're charging you on a weekly basis, that's a really scary deal. And if you miss a payment, and this is something that one of my friends saw in a hair salon, the owner of the business went to the the front of the store. Of course, everything is glass enclosed. And she spoke to a man, and the man hit her. The woman fell to the floor and she broke her wrist. She was a hairdresser. That means she was out for a long period of time, if not ever. So, fact of the matter is, come and see us first. We will let you know what we can do, but fact of the matter is that we have small business development centers in all 5 boroughs, quite a number of them. They will help you if you just have an idea. They will help you create a business plan. They will help you create a budget. And then they will tell you who is willing to help you with finance. We can lend from as little as $500 up to the $5.5 million that we have already discussed. So certainly there we have something for everything for everyone. Then we have another program called SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives. These are Fortune 500 CEOs, chief financial officers, media people, marketing people. If you need help with QuickBooks, if you need any kind of help expanding your current business or starting a business, there's a mentor there for you, and it's all for free. We do not charge for any of these services because we've already been paid with tax dollars. And the thing is that when you're in business, you're paying taxes. And if you're about to go into a business, you're paying taxes. So fact of the matter is that when you win, we win. And so does the community. So certainly, if you're a veteran, we have special set aside programs and sole source programs for veterans because they've already paid. They almost paid with their lives. And when there is a need in the veteran with the veteran or with the veteran's family, because if you think about it, if their husband or wife, went overseas to fight in a war, that whole family paid. And so certainly there's something for veterans. There's also women's business development centers, and we also have um, other programs that can help uh, any individual who's interested, whether they have just a concept or whether they have up to 1,500 employees. That's still considered a small business if it's in certain categories. And so certainly we have something for everyone. And we will let you know where the doors are, where the financial institutions are that are really interested in your business. Some banks will finance restaurants much quicker. Some banks are really looking to do nothing but real estate. We will let you know which financial institutions you should approach, or we will help you approach those financial institutions because we know what they're looking for and we know what they're interested in. So we're there for you. Don't ever be shy. Don't ever be scared. We know how to fix problems even before they start.
And you say you're there for the people, and I want to give you an opportunity to unpack a little bit more for our viewers. SBA, because you do have a lot of field offices out there, and they're field offices that people can take care, they can take run to, and then also you've got some partnerships. And so, for those who may not be familiar with your field offices, what goes on in the field offices? What services can people get at the field offices, and then some of those partnerships.
Well, the partnerships are easier for me to talk about first because they're I've already mentioned them. The Small Business Development Center are partnerships between SBA and the educational institutions. So, right, we have a Small Business Development Center here at Lehman College. So you may know about that one. It was recently led by someone who was a very close friend of mine who was a banker at Citibank when I was a banker at Citibank. It certainly is an opportunity for those who are thinking of starting a business or have a small business and need some help with paperwork, need some help with financial projections to come in. And so certainly they're located in at Lehman College. In Manhattan, we have a much larger one at Pace College. In Queens, we have two others. And what's good about that is that we normally hire, or they normally hire individuals that represent the community. And so in the Bronx, they have a couple of individuals that speak Spanish. In the two Queens offices, they certainly have those who speak Spanish, but also speak Mandarin and Korean because there's a very large growing Asian community in uh, in Queens. And then we have standalone small business development centers that are not with educational institutions. We have one in Chinatown. Brooklyn doesn't have one right now, but certainly those SBDCs, we call them SBDCs, can be accessed. through sba.gov/small business development centers. And know that that particular website is available in about at least 12 languages. And so, certainly, if you can read in a more comfortably in another language, we have the wherewithal to just convert everything that we have provided in those websites, and it's reviewed rather frequently in other languages. That's number one. Number two, our field offices. Mine is located at 26 Federal Plaza. It's also the Immigration Naturalization Center. So the lines are long, but certainly we are there. We have different staff in those offices on different days. But normally, what they have asked us to do, especially since the pandemic, is not necessarily be in the office, but rather be out in the community, um, meeting with chambers of commerce and meeting with other enterprises, uh, of course, supermarket owners, in order to ensure that the word is out there. But certainly, the numbers are all available out on sba.gov, and we're there to serve and we're there to answer questions. And our emails are also there. I have received emails from individuals, in, well, not only in my community, but even as far away as California, because they found my name first. I was at the top of the regional administrator list. And so, certainly, we are available to everyone, but certainly as a Bronxite, and as a New York City dweller, I'm first and foremost here for my New Yorkers, and know that there's a lot more that we want to do, including people who are coming back to the farming communities, and in the area of technology. Fact of the matter is that there's a huge plant that's going on up in under construction in Syracuse, New York, and it's called Micron. And they're going to be hiring thousands of people. There's going to be business opportunities for people to do business with them. And I'll give you a very small backstory, actually, too. There was an immigrant who came, was sent to a school in Albany to learn English, decided to look around for opportunities, business opportunities. He didn't necessarily wanted to go back to his country, and he found that they were closing a yogurt plant in upstate New York. Um, and they were closing it. Fact of the matter is that when he walked in, he saw the workers putting all the machinery very carefully back into boxes, and he decided to borrow $30,000 from us. It's now a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's called Chobani. And so, certainly, all things are possible. If you have a dollar and a dream, we'll provide you the rest. We had two college kids who both immigrants as well, parents from different countries, and we lent them $30,000 to open up a restaurant. Earlier this year, we lent them $1 million to open up a fried chicken restaurant. They're seventh in New York City, and they have revitalized the whole community in Brooklyn. And now we are in discussions on lending them an additional $1 million to buy the building where one of their restaurants is in New Jersey. So, certainly, once you get in through the door of SBA, we're going to stick with you like white on rice. You do everything right, we're gonna be right there with you, in order to ensure that you do well, so that our community and our nation can continue to do well. I hope I
Yeah.
answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You did. And as we're in this political season, we do have an incumbent president, Joe Biden. I should say, well, the incumbent party, Democratic Party of Biden and Harris. What do you see, particularly if things continue on a Democratic line with what we have, by way of funding? Because small businesses and let me back out and not say funding, but just let me go with small businesses itself. How do you see that playing out as with the Biden-Harris administration?
Well, there's only a Biden Harris administration until January 21st. After that, we will have another administration. And right now, we're not sure how it's going to go, but know that the White House can only ask Congress for funding and the Senate for funding. In the end, it's up to Congress and the Senate to say yay or nay. We have had a lot of issues with getting legislation passed by both houses. And so certainly, all I can say is everybody go out and vote, please, if you haven't already. But certainly, we need more funding, definitely. And we look forward to continuing the trajectory that has been started under this administration. And we hope that whoever comes in next will see that there is a need to continue to support the historically underserved, that we need to continue to support these brand new small businesses that have been started by immigrants and migrants. Those businesses go a long, long way. I mean, here in Hunts Point, last case scenario, it's a Korean guy who came in many, many years ago, and he ended up working in a Jamaican store in Brooklyn, in a bodega of all things. And he accumulated whatever money that he could accumulate. He ended up becoming a distributor of fruits and vegetables from guess where? From Jamaica. Um, and he's since expanded his business to bring in fruits and vegetables from other countries, needless to say. But you never know who you touch. You never know who you are impressing. You never know who is dreaming their best dream because they're working for another person who's making it. And so, certainly, when that happens, our national economy continues to grow and expand because we continue to make access to capital, access to opportunities, especially financial opportunities, available to anybody who's willing to work hard for it. And so, I can't imagine that anyone would ever be against a more successful nation. And so, I, vote, participate in the process. And if you participate in the process, then whatever the outcome is, you'll know that you were responsible for it.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent words right there, Marlene. We got to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us. And we appreciate you taking the time of being with us here today and sharing a little bit about the work that's going on with small business and, of course, the work that's going on for so many people in small businesses across America. Thank you.
Let me just add one last thing because there's $1.8 trillion that was passed in legislation, some of it actually with both houses. And it's an opportunity for small businesses to get involved with the federal government and with the state in the area of energy, high speed internet, infrastructure. It's $1.8 trillion. And out of that, $50 billion is available in government contracting for our businesses here. So certainly look again, sba.gov/IIA, which means Invest in America. There just may be an opportunity that you hadn't known about if you look in there. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you being with us. Marlene Cintron, thanks much.
Thank you. Delighted and honored.